how can you not only close more deals, but guarantee that you will close more deals 100% of the time? Absolutely guaranteed. Find out in today's video. So I recently went through the questionnaire of my Facebook group where I asked simple questions like, what's the most you want to get out of the group? What are the top things that you want to learn? And a common trend kept coming up, right? Actually, like verbatim. And it was how to close more deals. Like literally how to close more deals was coming up over and over and over again when people were joining the group. Which, by the way, if you're not in the high ticket selling Facebook group, I'll put a link below in the description so you can check that out, where we do things like live call breakdowns, playing actual sales calls from our team in the group, and we'll also take one person a month to be kind of put into a hot seat where you can actually submit over one of your calls, whether it's a discovery call, an outbound cold call, a set, or a strategy call that you have recorded, and we can actually do a fun breakdown for everybody in the group to get value. So if you're not already a member of the group, make sure that you check it out. But I wanted to go ahead and address this question. Since it was coming up, I figured it's good not only cover it in the group, but also here on this channel for you guys. And if you're brand new to the channel, welcome. My name is Dylan Starr, and I actually teach sales, things like outbound, sales training, building teams. I've actually built a team completely from scratch for one of my clients, and was able to get them up to $100,000 a month in revenue, completely cold, doing things like cold emails and cold calling, and literally took complete beginners and newbies who started as in February of 2022, who've never booked or done sales a day in their life, and were able to get up to the point where actually we just had a new record on the team from a girl who's brand new to sales. She started back in February, had no experience whatsoever, and she booked over 20 appointments in 1 week. It was absolutely nuts. So that's kind of like a new record, but over 20 in a week is pretty insane. But I teach sales and closing and tactics and all that fun stuff. And I also help business owners with not only building out sales process, but helping them with finding talent to put into the process so that they can focus on their business and their zone of genius. And so today, I want to cover how to close more deals, because obviously it's a top question. But while we're going into it, there's kind of a perspective I have whenever I see this question, right? When people say how to close more deals, I like to think, how could I guarantee that I would close more deals no matter what, and regardless of my skill? I think that's the real question that most people should be asking themselves, right? Because I know what they mean when you say how to close more deals. Basically, it's like, the only way to do it is you have to get better, right? You have to increase your skill. But how do you increase your skill? Right? And there's kind of a formula I have when it comes to sales, right? Because when people want to close more deals, really what they're saying is, how do I get more sales? And how do I get more revenue? How do I make more money? That's really what they're saying. And the formula is kind of L plus C equals S, right? So S stands for sales. And I've been preaching this for a long time in the group for years, and on my podcast and my channel and everything. And L plus C actually stands for leads plus closing. Right? So if you want to have more sales and close more deals, then you must have leads plus your skill of closing, right? Closing, the better you get at closing, the more money you will make, right? But in order to have more sales and close more deals, you must have those two parts of the equation, leads and the skill of closing, which now thinks, what do you focus on first, right? So if you know you need leads and you know you have to increase your skill of closing, what do? How can you guarantee that you will close more sales regardless, no matter what? And the answer is actually very simple. The thing that every single person should absolutely be focusing on is one word, and that is volume, right? If I wanted to 100% guarantee that I will close more deals, no matter what, as long as I have volume, I'm guaranteed 100% of the time that I'm going to close more sales, right? Like, don't believe me? Okay, here, case in point. If right now, if you're having 100 sales conversations a month and you were to go from 100 to 1,000 conversations in a month, do you think that you will sell the same? Do you think that you will close less? Or do you think that you will close more deals, going from 100 conversations to 1,000, right? Now, the answer obviously is going to be more, right? But this is what's interesting is, people always make it about like the skills and the tactics and everything. And regardless of, even if your skills stay the same, you would still close more sales. But here's what else is interesting, right? In the leads plus closing equals sales formula that people don't think about. By focusing on volume of leads, having as many as humanly possible, just by increasing volume, what do you think happens to the C in the equation, right? The C goes up because the more volume you do on leads, not only are you inevitably, through law of averages, guaranteed to close more deals, but your skill of closing now goes up higher. Why? Because it's impossible for you to put in that many reps and not get better, right? If I go to the gym and and I want to work out, if I go from doing 5 sets of every single exercise a week to 20 sets of every single exercise a week, I'm putting in more volume. I'm not only getting more results in terms of growth of the muscles, but my skill of muscle contraction and muscle control and performance of that movement is now inundated into my brain, and I get better at performing it because I am putting in more volume. So when people say, well, how do I close more deals? The answer is very, very simple. Right? Now, it's an easy answer, but obviously you may be watching this, you're like, well, Dylan, that's easy to say, but how the hell do you do more volume? That's the real question that people should be asking, right? Not necessarily how to close more deals, but how can I put in more volume, right? And so there's tons of different ways that you can actually do this, right? Obviously, you need a lot of leads. So if you are watching this video and you are in a sales position, I'll tell you what to do if you're in sales, right? So if you're in a closing position or a sales rep for a company, and right now you were doing things like just inbound, right? Maybe you're just in inbound sales and the company you work for are taking inbound traffic from social media or wherever it is that they get traffic, and they're booking onto your calendar, right? Well, here's the problem. If your calendar availability is only 5 hours a day, Monday through Friday, that means 5 times 5 is 25. That means your capacity right now of volume, if contingency that 100% of the people show up all the time, which you and I both know never happens, right? You're not going to have a 100% show rate. Industry average is typically about like 40% no-show. It's very, very, very common. So 4 out of your 10 people will actually not show up to the appointment, right? So off the bat, even if your calendar is full throughout the whole week, 40% will probably not show up. So if you're lucky, 60% will show up, right? Which leaves even less of a gap of those. So how could I go when I put in more volume, right? The only way to do that is you have to increase your skill. You do have to go to your company and say, hey, I want to open my availability for more, right? So you could go from 5 to 8, but even doing so, right, there's no guarantee that A, they will show up, and B, you will kind of like hit a position of burnout, right? So you definitely want more at-bats. But the best thing that you could do as a sales rep is every time people don't show up to an appointment and you have that hour or that 2 hours, what can you do with that 1 to 2 hours when someone doesn't show up to an appointment, right? Well, you could be adding another layer of skill to your arsenal. You can go to your boss or your company and say, hey, listen, right now I know you have all these people coming in, but do you have a list of leads of maybe past no-shows, or a list of leads of people who have maybe opted into our funnel, or a list of leads that you can go and get from things like Facebook groups or websites where you can go and actually get leads or purchase leads? Can you go and get a list of leads and give them to me, so in my spare time when nobody is available, I can just pick up the phone, call, reach out to them, and see if I can get more at-bats, right? You want to be able to add the skill of outbound to your arsenal to get more volume so that you can close more deals. You want to take ownership and responsibility of your situation, and through doing so, think about the value you are now adding to your boss or your company that you work for, right? Most of them will not be opposed to you being resourceful and trying to go out and elevate your skill and value to them, which is one of two things. Now you can not only, if you have leads, you can go call, put in more volume, fill in those gaps, right? I can literally call and say, hey, I have an availability that's now like opened. I know that you no-showed, assuming that the list that they give you is no-shows. We were scheduled 2 weeks ago with our company, but you didn't get a chance to show up. And, I actually just had an availability coming up right now within the next 10 to 15 minutes. And I want to see if you were able to still hop on, right? So just by doing that and putting in the effort during that 1 hour, you could fill in your next slot for the following hour and get somebody to go and fill in that position, right? So now you can kind of take the people that aren't showing up and go and squeeze that just to get more shows from past no shows to increase your volume, which in doing so is going to do what? Now your volume is up on the leads category of the equation, and naturally, because you're elevating your experience and your skill, now your closing will also get better. So there is two sides of this. You still must obsess over things like doing things like call reviews, like breaking down, seeing what you can do to improve, always asking yourself the question, what could I have done better? Or where in the call did I make the prospect feel uncertain? And learning, okay, well, they asked this one question and I didn't know the answer to the question, and I could tell, oh man, definitely made the prospect feel uncertain, and that's never going to happen again. Here, let me practice and see how I can handle that situation better, so when it comes up, I'm ready for it, right? Doing things like reviewing the tape, obsessing over getting better. Yes, those things absolutely matter, but the first part of the equation, the lead category, and focusing on the volume is where you want to make the starting point while still also obsessing over increasing the C, which is your closing skill. And thus, through having more leads and having more volume and your skill going up with the closing over time, you're going to naturally close more deals and get more sales, right? So the contingency of that is obviously you have to have more leads, like period, right? And some people that could be in position, or maybe you're watching this and you're not in a sales position, but you actually have your own business and you're closing for yourself, right? You have to have more leads, period. I had a conversation with someone recently and it was this lady, she's awesome. And she's like, yeah, the only thing that's holding me back is I know I need to build a team. I need to build a team of sales reps. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I thought you don't have consistency of lead flow and everything coming in right now. She goes, oh, well, I don't. I'm like, okay, well, what about your database? How many leads would you say you have? And she's like, well, I have about, I'd say about 2,000. And I'm like, even if you had one rep right now through doing volume, and let's say you're going to outreach to those leads. Well, on our team, on average, a minimum requirement of doing calls is 100 dials a day, which is nothing. And if you guys are listening to this, you're like, oh my gosh, 100 a day. Just know for concept, like I've spoke to people who have been on sales teams like Grant Cardone, and their minimum requirement was 800 calls a day. Literally, you're going 12 hours plus straight, putting in massive volume. Why? Because Grant Cardone understands that volume is king, right? The more volume and the more at-bats and the more at-reps, the more revenue you can make, period, regardless of your skill, right? Even if you take somebody who's never done it before and they're putting in volume, it is inevitable through sheer luck and coincidence and that they're going to get better and they're going to strike gold and actually, get the appointment and get the sale and sell something, right? You have to force people into volume. But 2,000 leads, it's like, even if you had somebody that was going through and doing those, that means their capacities, they would do 500 in a week, which means you were one rep out of 2,000 leads, only have the capacity for 1 month, right? What are you going to do after 1 month? So if I go and I hire somebody who and maybe they don't have the skill of actually doing outbound, right? So if I take one person and I go and onboard and I teach them how to do sales and they have 2,000 leads, they have solid month's worth to work on their skill, which isn't that much. If they really want to ramp up and get better faster, they could burn through the 2,000 leads quicker. Then you have a problem. There's no more leads, right? So I told her, I'm like, respectfully, your issue isn't building a sales team. Your issue is you don't have enough volume yet or consistency and able to get leads to where you having a sales team even makes sense, right? And then the other thing that most business owners don't think about is even if you were to take somebody, most likely for them to come in a position, if you're a business owner and you're kind of in the beginning stages and figuring everything out, you need somebody with like a high skill set, right? So my clients and my partner that I'm with when building her team, she was fortunate enough to find me because I had experience in the past of actually going and building out a sales team. I had experience in the past of doing outbound. I've already done this. Right. And like my skill level was here. It was high. Right. So, but if she would have found somebody who, and starting from zero, who's never done it before, and they didn't have that skill, there's no shot that we would have been able to get to the point where we're able to ramp up quickly, do over $200,000 first quarter, and then start hiring sales reps and then go and start hitting, consecutive 100K months. It's just no shot. Right. So if you're in the beginning stages, you need somebody with talent. The thing that most business owners don't realize is that talent is already making money elsewhere. If there's somebody who's super talented at the skill of closing or doing things like outbounding and booking appointments or building teams and all this stuff, right? And they are actually an A-level player when it comes to sales. A-level players are already making money elsewhere. That's a really big ask. For somebody who only has 2,000 leads that is at this level of their business, you're not going to go out and find and say, hey, here's what I'm selling my program for. I'll give you X amount of commissions. Please step away from your amazing opportunity of your $20,000 to $30,000 a month you're making in commissions and come work for me, right? Not going to happen more than likely. So thus, as a business owner, your only capabilities that you can do is rely on people that don't have that skill yet, building out your systems and your process and taking people with no experience and putting them in, right? That's what I have been doing with my other client, right? How we were able to take people who had zero sales experience, put them into the thing, push them into volume because we have enough capability doing volume because we're doing cold outreach. Literally, all my client has to do is just go online and find leads, scrape them. We input them into our CRM. We do things like cold calling, cold email, and cold text messages, doing outreach, and we book appointments literally at will. So because we have such an abundance of volume, it's not as much of stress and on having somebody with A-level talent, right? We take people with no talent, put them in through pure volume, they can go and the business still grows. We still close revenue and inevitably over time, their skill set gets better, right? So when it comes to closing more deals, it's very, very important. Just always remember that equation. That's what I do in my head when it comes to when I'm talking to somebody or somebody asks me the question or, they say, hey, I want to make more revenue and make more sales. I always tell them and I write it out. I'm like, cool. Okay, well, leads plus closing equals sales. This is the formula. So you have to increase one of them. We increase the skill of closing, but okay, here's the problem. You can't increase your closing skills if you don't have more at bat. So you have to get more leads, right? Can you get more leads, right? And then most times people in sales position will be like, well, I can only have so many leads of whatever comes in from my company, right? Which leaves you with the choice. You can either go to your company and see like, hey, if they're just doing inbound, ask them and get permission to say, hey, I want to step up and get better and at volume, have more at bats and make more money. I want to do outbound. Just give me phone numbers. I'll freaking do it. I'll call them. I'll book more appointments on my calendar. I'll do whatever I have to do to step up as a leader and get better. Or you have to go and find another company that will give you more at bats and give you more volume, because without more volume, your consistency line will be very, very slow and stagnant compared to being able to increase your level of skill completely faster. So volume is king when it comes to closing more deals. It will and always will be. And it's the only way to actually be able to increase your skill of closing as well. So I hope this made a lot of sense and had some light bulbs going off for everybody. I know it kind of seems like common sense because it is, right? So that's the answer to how to close more deals. You must focus on volume purely and make it the main focal point no matter what, because if you can hit more volume, inevitably 100% of the time, guaranteed, you will close more deals. Like not even a question, like 100% of the time guaranteed. If you have more volume, you take the volume down, you double it, you triple it, you quadruple it, inevitably you are going to always close more deals, period. Right? So I hope this is valuable to you guys. Thank you guys for the questions in the group and also here on the channel. So if there's anything you like covered and on YouTube, make sure you go to the comments and let me know what your question is, and I'll be happy to do a video for you. For those that have been submitting over, very grateful. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you find these videos helpful, and share it with a friend if you know someone that's in the closing space or a business owner that wants to learn how to close more deals for themselves or eventually build and onboard a sales team. Right? So I'll cover lots of trainings on building, how to do leadership and how to grow a team and how to hire and all those fun things. So everything will be covered here on the channel. So make sure that you are subscribed. And again, if you have not already joined my Facebook group, I'll put a link below in the description, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.